Greetings, it is now time for Man Alone to play Pendragon. Some say that Man Alone is King Arthur reborn, others say he's the Burger King reborn. I just call him old dad, he's my father, he's the father to all of us. He is King Arthur reborn and he's our father. Enjoy the show. Huh?
Hey, you old so-and-sos. Welcome to episode 8 of Pentadragon, the Man Alone 5-year Pendragon campaign. That's correct. 5 IRL years in which I'm going to learn, hopefully master the Pendragon system and play one hell of a campaign. It's ideally, unless a meteor falls from the sky in 508, I have a feeling it didn't, we will be able to play through one campaign. Our player night might change, but that's part of the game of Pendragon, is having errors and looking at those POVs through time. So now this is episode 8. If you're wondering where episodes 5 through 7 are, this is the free episode. This is the one that comes out every 4th or so. I'm going to, as promised, I'm going to keep doing this just to, if anybody can't afford membership or is not interested in that, just to kind of keep everybody in the loop of what's going on in the campaign. And if you do decide to hop on in, we're having a lot of fun. And it's going, it's going. It's little by little, brick by brick. We're finally at the part where we really know who it is that our knight is, and we're ready to start unfolding the story. But this game exercises mental muscles that are not usually in my wheelhouse. And so it's been it's been a very positive experience. It's been difficult for me because it does exercise not only these atrophied muscles as a tabletop role player, it also is working things that are not my strong suit as a person, right? So I'm the kind of person that will get something from IKEA and just try to put it together. Very frustrating to all of those around me. Some of you just hearing that, it's frustrating. But I'm definitely somebody who is good if you're looking for someone to say, let's just give it a shot. Let's see how it goes, right? Because usually, even when I GM, I will do enough prep to make sure that I'm not driving everything off the rails. I will maybe write down some thoughts throughout the week, but I just kind of hit the gas and go. And you just can't do that in this game. And there have been several times where I have had that impulse. And if it was any other game, I would be like, all right, let's just go. Let's just go. But you can't. And it's not about fear. It's not about apprehension or anxiety, any of those things that might stop us from taking that first step in a campaign. It's that you have to understand this world. And I thought that would be the most frustrating thing about this, but it has actually been one of the most rewarding things to engage with the material like this, is opening up this whole new way of seeing tabletop gaming and soloing. And it is just, I'm so glad that I stupidly made this decision to do this. Because don't get me wrong, I was like, this is a stupid decision. This is committing to something that you usually get aggravated with, and you're committing to it for 5 years. And it's like, yep, and I'm doing it in public, so I have to do it. Because if you make a promise in public, you can't break it. That's the public promise system. But that said, if you are interested in following along with every episode, maybe you watch this one and you say, hey, this looks great, I think I want to hop in. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the names and the faces that you trust. And you can trust that this is a quote, these words. I did a lot of research, a lot of scripts to verify that this is some version of a quote. And so if you join SEAL Team Waffle Alpha for $3.99 a month, you're not only going to get access to all the Pendragon videos, you're also going to get the Man Alone weekly podcast. New episode coming this weekend. You're also going to get members only posts. You're going to get access to the Discord. And so for $4 a month, and you get to be part of STWA, SEAL Team Waffle Alpha, pronounced Stwa. Please join us if you can and if you're interested. But otherwise, let's start the show. So I feel like because a few of you may be a little bit disoriented by this, not only if you haven't seen the other episodes, the last 3 episodes, but if you haven't seen or understand Pendragon at all, I feel like I just got home from a vacation and it was a really great vacation. And I want to tell you everything, but I don't know like what order to tell it in and what to show you. So I think the first thing to do would be to just show you all my cool stuff that I got. So of course we had the core rule book. We also have the Great Pendragon campaign, which I did show off in, I think, 2 videos back. I was very jazzed to get this because this is going to be the spinal column for solo play. This is one of the most impressive things probably in terms of literature produced within the tabletop gaming world. And what this is it's a year-by-year guide of from 485 Britain all the way up to the Twilight period of 566. And it just tells you everything that's going on in each of these years, who's at court, what's the gossip, the news, the intrigue, what adventures, what battles. And so that will provide the context within which we play. And I think given the level of texture that is involved in this game and the level of historical, fantasy, historical, literary, historical, literary, magical, historical superstructure of this game, this is a great anchor. I would say this boosted my gameplay confidence by like plus 50 to have this, because this allows me to know the sort of water that we're swimming in when it goes from year to year. The game is also structured in a yearly format, and this guide, which I think was from Paper Dice Games, it is a workflow that starts in spring court and goes all the way to the winter phase, which is sort of the upkeep phase. But it also has rules on battles, skirmishes, activities in court, getting married, knighting, healing, hunting, tournaments, inspiration, ranged combat, etc., etc. And so this also will be a good thing to refer back to just in terms of the broad strokes of what we're doing. During any sort of feasts, I am super excited to use this feast deck. And if you check out, if you do become a member, if you are a member, I think the last episode I go through with how these work, but this has made feasts and stuff as exciting as like combat for me, because it is randomly generating these encounters. There's dice rolls involved. There's choices involved. There's lingering effects of it involved. And we all know that I am a card boy, and I do love my cards. If we need to, we can fill in the blanks with Mythic, GME. I don't see me doing that specifically. Unless this doesn't work, I think what I'm going to primarily do is use the Game Master's Apprentice deck when I need to get something like an input word or something like that, because it's good. That is one thing that I'm curious to see how it's going to play out, because you can't just take anything in this game, right? It has to sort of fit in the Arthurian context. I mean, I could say an astronaut landed or whatever, but I don't want to. There's something really nice about playing within certain boundaries that's very appealing to me. It's like a sonnet, It's also oddly clarifying, I guess I'll say, because you have like you could say, oh, Pendragon has too many things to learn about it. These traits and these skills and passions, and it's too much new stuff. It's not. First of all, I think a lot of that is the same system. When you learn how to use traits, it's not that hard to learn how to use passions and skills and everything. The biggest thing is really just like learning the flow of the game. It's something that I'm still working on. I've been watching a lot of campaigns and reading. God bless people who like write up reports of their entire games sessions and post them. But what is cool about it is like, you're like, okay, there is this barrier, this wall, and it's the Pendragon wall, and there's a lot of stuff inside it. And so we have to learn all about mounts and skirmishes and glory, and we have to learn what oration trait, how that works, and we have to learn what's the difference between two-hand hafted and one hand or hafted, like what all these things that are new. But at the same time, because there is that structure, all I have to worry about is what's inside of it. And so if I can master what's inside of it, I can play with that. That becomes the toy box to play with, where sometimes I see supplements for other game systems, or just even system agnostic supplements, and I'm just like, wow. You'll see one. I know if I give an example, I'm trying to think of one that's both an example but isn't a real one. Yeah, there's like a supplement that's called 500 different umbrellas to use in post-apocalyptic acid rain scenes. And you're like, my God, like who sees that and is like, finally, I'm so tired of figuring out what kind of umbrella I have, It's just, there's no end to it, which is appealing, I think, in some sense to a lot of people. But for me, it feels overwhelming, like an endlessness. Whereas with this, I'm filling up this bucket, and then once I have it, like that's it. I can start constructing things. That's my erector set. So now, one of the things that is tough, again, is that there is a lot in the bucket, and we're also at this transitional period. I recently got 5.1, which, let me tell you, whoever told me this, I agree with you in terms of like 5.1 seems to be the best, most coherent, most complete system. Maybe some people would say 5.2, which is just like a correction of a lot of the errors or tightening up of this. But going through this book, and it's just, it's got nice pictures and designs and stuff, but it's so dense and it's so black and white. And then going through the 6th edition, I'm just like, man, I cannot wait for like the 6th edition GM guide and campaign supplements and all of these like italicized books in here that they're like, refer there for more information. But the Pendragon Nobles Handbook, the Knights and Ladies Adventurous, these things or something similar to them exists in previous editions, but they're just not out yet. And so that's been tough, kind of saying there's not too many big changes, but there's enough that it causes me to occasionally go cross-eyed, where I'm like, wait a minute, what year is this supposed to be? What is this rule for? Is this the same way that I read the other time of doing it, et cetera, et cetera? So that will kind of be part of the adventure, though, is trying to piece this together as it comes out. So it's an interesting time to get into Pendragon, in which we're on 6th edition, but we can't fully play with 6th edition as is. Good luck. The good news is it looks like the Game Master's guide is on the horizon for early 2025. And I think once that happens, it's from there, it'll just be gravy. I think between this, hopefully, in the Game Master's book, that'll be everything you need. Okay, so I'm just going to give a little bit of update of where I am. And to be simple, I'm ready to start. It's literally taken that long just to get to the point of starting, because the character creation process that I used and that we went through in the last few videos was using the Book of Sires. And if you thought your game's character creation was extensive, well, try starting with your great-grandfather, because that's what Book of Sires is, where you're rolling different events, you're going through the years, you're finding out when your grandfather, who were they with, who did they have allegiance to, how much glory did they have, how did they die in battle, who did they go with when there was some sort of fight over the throne, etc. But what it turned out to be was an amazing kind of mini game that was so fun that I never wanted to stop. I had to force myself off of it, or else I was going to keep rolling up new characters until my knight was in like 1999. But my knight, Sir Jorma, is going to be born in 587, and we're going to start the campaign in 508, which is the time that this book right now recommends that we start things at. And so if, the GM's guide comes out and we look at how things are going in this campaign, we're not going to throw any of this stuff away. Like, it is my commitment to stay within the same world and continuity, unless there is some system or way of playing that's revealed in the Game Master's Handbook that is like truly revolutionary or something like that. I think we'll try to stay within the same thing, but we might switch over to another character, because I would like to see, it seems like in the past, at least 6th edition, 5.2, 5.1, and 5th edition, it's the same starting point for every first knight, which is Logris starting at Salisbury under Lord Robert or Roderick. And we'll talk about that. But I'll go over that history just to review it really quickly. And then we'll get started with the plan of how I'm planning on taking my first steps forward. All right, so this is Sir Jorma, born in 487, and I am a vassal knight under Robert of Salisbury. And it's a little bit weird. We'll get into that, because Robert is not that much older than me. So I'm 21 now, and I'm slated for knighting at the pretty soon, early on is the plan. And I think that will be in 508, the year that we're going to start. And I think that Sir Robert got knighted in 506, but he's the lord and he's the heir from Sir Roderick, and he inherited that when he was, I think, 15. And so his mother, Count Ellen, I think it's Elaine, I don't know, has been sort of, governing or lording, counting in his stead. But he's, come of age now. And, Countess Ellen. And so I'm trying to figure out how that dynamic is going to go, right? Because, obviously, and it's not, what I'm trying to figure out is if it is completely my choice. Like, if a count was almost the same age as the knight, would there be any sense of familiarity, or would there just be like, no, you are the knight, I am the lord, and that's that? I know that ultimately age doesn't matter, but what sort of like relationship would they have? I'm not certain, but anyways, so we'll figure that out. It's a very interesting, as you can see on the left here, it's an interesting setup as far as my traits go. The traits on the left are sort of positive or ideal traits, but we all have our weaknesses. And I don't have any of the less than ideal traits that are higher. That's not usual because I'm a knight, right? I should be, at least at the beginning, valorous and all that. But my highest categories are that I am just, spiritual, and I suppose we could say valorous, just, spiritual, valorous, and chaste, I guess, would be also up there. And this is a challenge for me because I usually, I think, feel most comfortable playing chaotic good or chaotic neutral. If we're to use those divisions of character types, I think would just speaking from, actual personality, right? And so this is somebody who is pretty like an ideal knight, though, it looks like. Maybe not, has some hard time with being reckless, sometimes could be a little bit selfish in terms of, helping others, but that could be something that's developed. Is a little bit suspicious, and probably enough suspicious of anything that would lead me from the path of God and Lord and service and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see, what is revealed here. I've got a big mustache and I'm strapping. My characteristics, there's a couple different systems of setting these up, and I tried to do like a 3d6 generated one, but I had to do a little bit of balancing because there are certain skills, if you see on the bottom right, that they have to be at least a level 10 if you're knighted. And so since I'm going to be knighted in 508 or maybe 509, but probably 508 when we start, I had to have 10 in horsemanship, 10 in sword, charge, brawling, and then horsemanship, and then 2 like non-combat skills. And so I had to adjust because these skills are sort of derived based on your characteristics, and most of them are based on APP, which is appeal, which is a new permutation of appearance that they made for this one. It counts like your charisma and everything as well as your strength and a few with your dexterity. And I had to adjust these because I was quite a ways away from even being able to modify them to 10. I got a few bonuses, cultural bonuses, I think being Cumra, Shimeric. I got, let's see, courtesy, I got +3, I think, sword, and maybe horsemanship. And then also was able to add a few for just basically like customization's sake. But I had to get those over 10 because that allows me to be knighted. And so if I was playing earlier in my life, if I was starting when I was like 14 as a squire, I wouldn't have to have met those milestones right away. I could have worked towards that. I inherited a little bit of hatred for the Saxons. They did assassinate my well, it's complicated. So, all right. So here's where we are in 508. And we're in Logris at the bottom here. And it looks like right now, Salisbury is right in this little part where this cursor is, and the page doesn't want to go down. And so on the right we have, sorry, this really doesn't want to play along here. All right, so to the right we have the West Saxons. There we go. To the left we have the mysterious kingdom of Somerset. Below we have Dorset. And then Cornwall is like a whole other kingdom to the west. And I guess to the north would be Escavalon. To the northeast is Lindsay. my Aunt Lindsay. So this is Logres itself, and you can see here, I really, really like this map. I think that Camelot's right here. And Sarum, where we're going to start, is right next to it to the left. So we'll get a sense of, the what's going on politically. But what happened was I had rolled up Sir Jorma as my grandfather and then Sir Jorma as my father. But then I realized that because the 6th edition wants you to kind of start near 508, and I was like, well, I want to do that too, just because it uses that as a lot of examples, and I didn't want to confuse myself. So I just pushed Sir Jorma back to be my great-grandfather and Sir Jorma to be my grandfather, and then my father, Sir Roger, for both Sir Jorma and Sir Joran, as I was going through Book of Sires, I had so many dice rolls. There were so many opportunities for these guys to die, and they didn't. They just kept being garrisoned, and they survived in battles. And then finally I got to my dad, Sir Roger, and I rolled up okay, he was born in 463. And when he was born, his father was killed by Vortigern in the Night of the Long Knives, and he was betrayed. His father, my grandfather, was loyal to Vortigern, and Vortigern betrays him, favors the Saxons over his own people. And so I was born, and quickly I was carried away to Brittany, which was where my mother was from. And I think that it's actually on the northeast of France. I could be wrong, but it's, I think, across the channel. And then in 466, my father goes back and joins the March of Aurelius, as sort of like a rebel campaign, fights and survives in the Battle of Exeter, fights with great valor at the Siege of Carlion, fights and survives the Battle of Snowdon, and then presentation at the coronation of King Aurelius, fights at this last battle at Maesbelly, defeats a Saxon berserker, gets a fine cloak that I still have, and then died in the Battle of Conisborough. So this dude had a final glory of 3,558, of which I got a tenth of. My dad got a tenth of that. Sir Roger knighted on his 21st birthday, fights and survives Battle of Meercred Creek, marries my mom, Eloise, in Logres Midlands, conceives me, the player knight. My son is born, or my dad, I am born, Sir Jorma. And then he immediately, as I'm born, he goes with Prince Madoc to push back the Saxons. He never comes home. So never seen again. Presumed dead. Final glory, 1756. It changes in 6th edition, and I decided to change it for myself then as well, is that you get a fourth of their glory rather than a 10th. And so I'm born in 486. I don't know why I have that as born in X. I'm born in 486, and my starting glory is 439. There is all of my relatives. My mother is still alive. In 501, I'm sent to Sarum to Squire. My mother presumably was put in charge of the state by Sir Roderick when my dad died. And so she's been sort of managing the estate and was like, well, I can't teach you to be a knight here. I mean, obviously, and we're going to send you there. It might have even been part of the fealty, for Sir Roderick saying, well, I'm going to grant you the control of this house or these lands in absentia, this manor, but when your son comes of age, he'll learn to squire under me. Anyway, Sir Roderick dies. So now Countess Ellen has control of that manor, or I guess the lordship, and I'm there, and it's 5:08. I've turned 21, and I serve Lord Robert in Castle the Rock in County Salisbury in the town of Sarum. And that is where really the story opens here. And that is where at the point where you say, "Oh, okay, I'll start here," you can't. Like I mean, I will. Hopefully today in this video, but the normal thing after you generate a character in a game is to be like, great, let's play. But you can't. You have to know a little bit more about like what is going on. And all of that stuff I just said, a lot of it came from Book of Sires, but I had to understand a lot of things for that. I had to understand and I'm not very knowledgeable about this time or about this legend. And I know the legend's a bit muddled too, because a lot of it, I think with like Mallory, it's written 600, 700 years later. So there's a lot of anachronism, even like jousting and stuff, which showed up a lot in Arthurian legend. That just kind of started around 5th or 6th century. The armor, they probably had some metal armor, but it was more likely, or like, full plate. They probably had some, but it was more likely a lot of chainmail and boiled leather. And so there is just like that adds another layer of, trying to figure it out, trying to see what everything looks like here. And honestly, I think that the best way to do this would be to read some stuff of what's going on in the GPC, the Great Pendragon Campaign, and then just say, okay, I'm being knighted soon. As soon as I'm knighted, I'll get 1,000 glory. But I need some ways to ease myself into the game, to just understand how it feels to play the game. And so I honestly think the right place to start would probably be like hunting, going on a hunt. And I think that is something that makes sense as far as my character, where I'm at. There's going to be some other knights that are training with me. We can use pre-constructed characters, or I do have keyed up this really good pendragon.umplink.fi, and this actually has some really cool generators. And one of the things I like the most about it, this is an example of like just a random history rolled up, all the things that you kind of do as you are rolling up your knight. But I can roll up a knight. The only problem is that I don't know how to change it, and I don't know if it's possible. It just rolls up knights in 480. So I would have to move that up, and I'm not sure. I don't think that will have too much implication. I could do a random knight. But anyways, the thing I like about this here, Sir Serial, is you can then generate a PDF. So you don't have to like write it all down. You generate a PDF, and that way I can keep a file folder with any knights that I have. Something I wish they also had, they have Horse Market. It seems like the one thing that I would love so much that isn't here and isn't in a lot of places is an NPC generator. As far as I can see, I don't find any NPC generators. Like, I just want to know, like, I understand that I'm living in the land of knights and ladies, but I'm going to run into people in the forest. I'm going to have people who are going to attempt to sell apples to me. I am going to have, the woman who picks up my clothes in the morning and yells at you knights, always leave your stinky socks around. And so every time I do that, am I going to like roll on all of these pages to figure out the stinky socks lady's homeland, and her traits and her stats and her disposition and I can't do that every time. And so if anyone knows like a quick way to roll up NPCs, again, I can use any sort of NPC generator. It's just that, again, as I've established, in a couple of ways, like there is a specific type of person, and I could, of course, just create an NPC, but I need to figure out a reliable way to roll one up, because that is, to me, like not a worthwhile mental load while you are playing. It's better to have a table or an online generator, or even just a list, like a pre-made list. I did go through and look at like who the main players are during this time, but yeah. So we'll see how we're gonna figure that out. To be determined. So the year 508. Court this year is held at, and we'll say that it's spring, technically, like it's after winter court, so that the winter phase will end out this year. Countess Ellen's court is held at Sarum. And so Countess Ellen, again, is Roderick's widow, who is ruling Roderick's widow, who is ruling until Robert is able to take over. The special guests here are King Nanteliad and retinue. And this is one of the contenders for the throne. So then we have some gossip. Let me tell you, it's been a long time since we had royalty at this castle. Look at all these people. Where are they all from? Escavalon mostly, but surely you know that. I can't imagine what I was thinking when I was younger. To hate this. I would sleep in the barn just to be around so many people. Well, I'll say that the Countess should get her claws into that king if she can. Ah, too late for that now. Their time passed years ago, I'm told. But who knows? So we get a little bit of eavesdropping, dropping some eaves on a conversation. Some news. All Salisbury Knights will muster this summer for battle, and King Nanteliad is going to destroy Cerdic once and for all. And so, now this is kind of the point around which I am trying to figure out: do I want to be a knight that is mustered, or do I want to be just shy of being knighted? And then join up afterwards, because and we could take the time that we need. It's not like every video has to be a year. So we'll see how that goes. Intrigue. Nanteliad's army is greater than Cerdic's. Okay. And then King Cerdic marches north and waits near the decrepit city of Winchester. King Nanteliad marches south with his army to Salisbury. Other forces join and they march south in good order. So I can stop right there. And I can tell you, I've read this like before. I've read a couple of these. And if you were to read this as if it was a GM's guide or a campaign guide, you would say, oh, well, this doesn't work for solo, right? It's telling you what happens at the battle. There's a Cerdic and Nanteliad. Nanteliad musters at, where is it? There's also some errors on here that I later found were corrected. But as they approach, a huge army of Saxons unexpectedly joins King Cerdic. So that was the big surprise, is that Nanteliad was like, oh, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to march. I'm going to bulldoze these guys. And then out of nowhere, 11,000 Saxons show up, and Nanteliad is destroyed, killed. And so that he was the strongest candidate for the throne. And so as these come up, I can roll and see if I'm there. I can roll and see my place in it. But more than likely, at least for now, we can play around this, right? Because again, I'm not King Arthur. I'm not Nanteliad. Maybe one day I'll get invited to the round table. Maybe I'll be a banneret knight and have lands of my own. But for now, I'm like a senior in high school about to graduate into knighthood. And so whether, regardless of what happens at that battle, it may or may not affect me. And so I like that. I like that about this system because it gives me more freedom to get the whole information without feeling like I'm spoiling the plot or anything. My thought is I get this information and then I build around this, but I do stop myself every once in a while because I am a little bit uncertain of like the details here, and that's good. I have like a fog of war in my mind right now. And I'm trying as I go along while I'm playing, I have been trying to assemble like a solo play guide, and this is not correct. I'm just sort of coming up with things right now and letting the ideas drip out of my head if they come. And so I have like, what's the status of the kingdom? What are some random events that can happen? Trait tests, right? I was thinking maybe this would be a cool thing to do is roll on a trait and then decide, in advance how that trait, what trait will be tested without actually doing it, but then building a solo scenario around that trait so that we arrive at the point in the fiction, in the story of that trait being tested, and then we can improvise from there. A couple different situations. I'm trying to make a combat and social challenge thing. I'm trying to be too clever. It's not coming together. I won't even share that yet. But then I trying to put together a session log. And another thing that I'm using here is dividing up events into different types of courtly, political, military, adventure, supernatural, economic. And then, say I roll a D8 equals 5 social and personal events. I would then roll a D6 on here, and I roll a 3. A rival knight begins spreading slanders about you, challenging your reputation. And so then I would play that out. The interesting thing is, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding negative. Like, there's only so many things that can happen. There is, even if you look at like these solo scenarios, and there's a really, really good solos guide somewhere around here, if I can find it. Yeah. So this is from the Book of Solos, which I believe is free online. I linked that in a previous video. If you look at the events that can happen, you have these are good fortune. These are relations, saga event, bad fortune, courting, flirting, joy, affair, proposal, bliss, bastard, lover, tragedy, right? Those are some options. And then dropping stuff all over the place. And then if you look at the solo list in the 6th edition book, I'm about to drop everything. Let me pause. So, and just to clarify, if you didn't catch this last time, the solo scenarios are not really like what we would think of as traditional solo play, but they're really cool. My gosh, look at this art. It's just unreal. Oh, they're really cool in that these are pre-made things that if you have a character who misses the session, a player who misses the session, you can have them do like a couple of rolls to figure out like what happened to them during that season or the year or whatever that they missed. And then you can keep them up to speed with, like XP and character development and everything. But if you look at this list, you roll a 1d20. 14 to 16 is an unusual event. Okay, so these are things that would be considered not every year or whatever, right? Like not every day. Like these are the household knight's duties. Unusual events would be visiting royal court, visiting a lord's overlord, escorting someone to a faraway place, escorting someone to a nearby place, false alarm, local tournament, uprising among commoners. These things aren't going to happen every day. Then we have like lost in the woods, And this is if I wanted to go like questing. Here's all the things that I can do in the woods. So these are going to be really good leads. You can go mad and just start running around. Christian pilgrimage, visiting a great lord, visiting a royal city. So I think these are going to be really good leads. But it's not. It's a life of duty. It's a life of ritual and custom and duty. And so I'm not going to be. The stuff you see in the movies is the stuff that happens in between a lot of other stuff that didn't make it in the movie. I guess that's the way to say it. All right, so I do think, again, the way to go is going back to 5.1 and looking up this thing, a first adventure. This is like the GM guide, but I think we can, work this into a solo scenario. We'll use, if we need to, we can use the null dice. We'll use the Game Master's Apprentice cards if we need some inputs. And we could use the Oracle if we need to, or the Fate Mill, I mean. So we'll try to come up with that. The thing that I will probably use, or definitely use, is a random night generator to figure out who the other squires are at Sir Robert's with me, because as a solo player, I'm going to have to, generate NPCs for conversation, especially other knights. I'm not fully sure who I am yet. I was thinking a lot about this because I'm pretty balanced, all things considered. I'm like pretty balanced here. There's not anything that is, there's no, how like when somebody makes what is that called? Like a caricature? Like when somebody makes like the big head, if you sit there and somebody traces you really quick, they like accentuate your biggest qualities. I guess I have some, it seems to me that I'm a stand-up dude. I likely inherited some hate for, Vortigern, which that would be like me now hating. I'm trying to think. It'd be like if my grandpa really hated Lyndon B. Johnson. I mean, it's Lyndon B. Johnson didn't kill. I don't even want to complete it. But like, it's not the same in that, but it's like two generations, the hatred is going to intensify, especially that I never met either my dad or my grandpa. And so I have to think of what that means, but still, they're telling stories in the family. I have a high level of homage to Robert. So that's got to be meaningful. I have a 15 honor. I love my mom. I respect her. I'm good at recognizing. So recognize, courtesy. These are things that, and intrigue. These are things that seem to me like I might be. I think maybe the phrase that's coming to my mind right now for my character is like, I will rise to the stature. I will rise to the heights I need to best serve my Lord. And I think that goes both ways, like Lord Robert and God. However, I think that there may be some challenges to this, either overt challenges or moral challenges that could be interesting. All right, so now we'll start here where it says now the actual play begins. In this short sequence, you will teach the basic die roll resolution system and get each player started on the idea of role-playing. We can get past that. But I will review really quick, because I know you're like, oh, come on, get to the game. But just to make sure everyone understands this. when it comes to the roll system here, I think it's important to point out that in terms of unopposed rolls, I have I'm not going to be checking traits all the time. I can't say check because checking means checking them off. I'm not going to be testing them all the time, but say that I have to test forgiving. Okay. I have to roll under a 13 to succeed at forgiving somebody, which is likely because I have a high rate of it. So I rolled a 9. So that means I've forgiven. Now, say that I didn't roll that. I rolled a 16. I rolled over it. I then would have to roll vengeful. And if I succeed in that or get under 7, then I would have to be vengeful, which is unlike me. And it might make me more vengeful next time. We'll see. It's sort of at the GM discretion. So for me, it would just be me trying to figure out like what's the best. Was that a significant enough moment? However, what usually happens, because your other trait is quite low, is I roll an 8. Okay, so I rolled under forgiving. That's what usually happens. You get it, right? But say you don't. I don't roll. I roll a 16 on forgiving. And then I roll on vengeful, and I roll, that's not a good, a 14. I roll over it. And so that means I make the decision that I want. I make whatever decision I want because maybe I'm ambivalent or maybe I'm just sort of acting however I'm acting. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever. So I just don't want anybody to think that I have to all the time go in accord with what my traits are. And I want to see if this shows up better on camera. Yeah, that might show up a little better. Okay. So we're not going to teach you all about role-playing. Sir Elad's the guy who has been training you along with your own knight. He's also the guy in charge of the Earl's small army. Oh, I see. This is assuming that I am a squire. Oops. Sorry, everyone. So assuming I'm a squire, so we'll just delete that part and it'll say, Sir Elad is the guy who's been training you. He's also the guy in charge of Sir Robert's small army. Sir Elad and the player characters go outside of the training grounds of the castle. It's springtime and the sun's shining. The usual day's activity is martial practice, and today is no exception. Tell the players that their characters are going to practice their lance skill. The first target is a small wooden plate attached to a post. Oh, what was this thing called? It doesn't matter. Success at this attack is by a simple unopposed d20 roll versus the character's lance skill. Make sure everyone knows how to read the result. Getting less than your character's value is a skill. Getting exactly it right is critical. So let's see. My lance is... Oh. None. I mean, not none, but this is interesting. I never noticed this. Lance is not... Unless I'm not seeing it. I don't have a... I wonder if that would be... Spear? Charge. Maybe charge. We'll do charge. Oh, and also, I learned that horsemanship is a limiter for any skills when you're on horse. So if you have a 15 sword... but your horsemanship is 10, then your sword is 10 when you're on the horse. Okay, so we'll say charge. All right, 17. So I fail that roll. Next, the characters use the quintain. That's right, a vertical post with a rotating horizontal arm. Lance practice consists of charging against it, striking the shield, and ducking. Success is determined by using a lance skill, again, unopposed and unmodified. Failure means the character's thwacked, resulting in a bit of a bruise maybe, but no more. All right, be sure to ask everyone 2 things while playing through the first bit of training. First, what do they intend doing when something occurs? Second, how do their characters feel about and react to their own and other successes or failures? For example, are they embarrassed if hit by the rock? Make sure that they refer to the traits before they decide. Cruel characters might tease others, while modest characters might not mind. If anyone wants to roll a trait to see what they do, no rolls are mandatory. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Why don't we do this here? So this will give me a chance to roll up another knight. And what I'm going to do is I'll roll somebody up really quick. And then I'll generate the PDF and open it. And I'm going to try and find one who's... This one looks good, even though we'll have to just update the age and stuff a little bit. Let me bring this up. Okay, so I don't know why it was this moment that generator stopped working, but that's okay. There is one on perchance.org. And we have a hale male knight appears serene with a wiry physique, bright eyes, and thin red hair. All right, he's from Logris in County Clarence, and he's called Sir Aaron. He's courteous but gluttonous. They value being honest. Their major passion is they hate the Franks. They're a bit of a huntsman, and their goal is change. Skillful at singing, religion, battle, British Christian. They have the following combat traits. So, yeah, I like this this chap here. So I'm just going to save this, and we'll say we'll say right now he's Aaron, right? He's with me. He's like training alongside me, and we Lance of 21's a bit high. That's okay. We'll edit that down. We'll say that his lance is like mine. It's 10. And we'll see. 11. Okay, so Sir Aaron doesn't hit it either. And Sir Elad is like, didn't I train both of you? Every day you mock me with your lance skills. Do it again. And he says, and since you're all riding like you did when you was 5, I'll lower it down. And everyone goes, ah, and lowers the quintain down. And so Aaron comes up, and Aaron is courteous but gluttonous, and they value being honest. And he says, I have a slightly better chance than you do of hitting this, but if you hit it, it might turn our luck around and encourage me to hit it right on the mark, and then training can be over for the day. 5. Okay, so I knock right into this thing, spin it, yeah, and Elliot goes, that's what I'm talking about, and he's very excited. I'm liking this guy Elliot here. He's like reminds me of Gurney Halleck from Dune, combined with Jon Favreau's character from The Replacements with Keanu Reeves. I know that's a stretch. Yeah, baby, yeah. That was absolutely brilliant. You see that? I lowered it, and he rose to the occasion. And then Aaron, who I'm going to give an accent to now, is like, let's see, he's from Logris, Clarence, so he sounds like me. He says, absolutely brilliant, chap. Wonderful job. And I know everyone who's British right now is very mad because they're like, if you're from Britain, you go, it's not how they sound if they're from County Clarence. Whatever. All right, so Aaron is courteous. He says, quite a wonderful hit. Now my turn, chap. And so he goes, and I don't know if this is normal. Well, nothing's normal. We're solo playing a game that's not solo, but I just kind of want to see if Aaron hits it as well. And zing, bazinga, Aaron hits it as well. Bzzz. And now Elad is like, oh, good gracious, that's marvelous. Look at that. And there's all these like kids around, right? They're like 4 years old. They're terrified of this guy. He's like, do you see that? All you who want to be a knight one day, it's not just about hitting the mark. It's about hitting the mark when it changes. And the kids are like, one of them's picking his nose. He's like, okay. He's like, both of you, come down from the horse. I'm feeling great. Anyone else feeling great? Everyone's like, yeah, sort of moderate. He says, come here. I want to talk to you. Let's see what's next, and then maybe you could see what he's going to talk to them about. Next is a horse race. Characters will have many opportunities in the future to try to outrace each other, and this is the procedure that will be used. All right, so we're going to use opposed horsemanship rolls. So in an unopposed roll like I just did, I'm only rolling against my trait. But in an opposed roll, I think I have to roll against my, well, not trait or skill. I have to roll against a skill, and I have to roll against another person's roll for the skill. And I think I'm doing this right, but getting good at this. It is possible that someone will choose a rouncy for personal reasons. Okay, what is a rouncy? Look that up. All right, this says, did you mean bouncy or jouncy? No, I meant rouncy. Okay, did you mean Ron Cyrus, the Kentucky House of Representatives, District 90? No, I meant rouncy. Is this it? Rouncy. All right, the term rouncy was used during the Middle Ages to refer to an ordinary all-purpose horse. They were used for riding but could be trained for war. It was not unknown for them to be pack horses. The horse, which was also referred to as a runcinus, is believed to be a harrowing animal on account of its proportions found. Okay, so this is like I guess what this is here is a loner horse, which we will both use if we are still squires. So it's possible that someone will choose a rouncy for personal reasons. Note the relative speeds of each horse. Get a piece of graph paper. What? For each mounted character, use a column as the steps to measure relative distance traveled in the race. Each round, a character moves as many squares along his column as his horse's movement rate. Okay, well, we don't need... We can get a little... well, you know. Let's see if I can find anything in here that would serve speedway purposes. I've got a race me rouncy. I think we could just use a, maybe here we go, courtyard. So we've got a bit of a rouncy. All right. Each round, a character moves as many squares along his column as his horse's movement rate. And so I think I'll have to just like look up a general horse. That could be it. Horse armor, horse care, horse colors, horse market, horses. All right, why don't we look up horse market? Oh, wow. Well, that says how much they cost. I need horse information, please. I've got a horse. Controlling horses in combat, non-combat trained horses, mounts, training horses. Okay, where's that? 184. See what I mean here? Like you look up something, I'll probably have to go to 5.2. So this is a whole bunch of things I haven't even approached yet, but this is good. I promise myself when I come up to anything I haven't learned yet, then that's when we'll learn it. So hobby, charger, fairy, Jeanette, rouncy. Okay, so we'll say that we have a normal rouncy, 3d6 damage, a move of 16. And since Aaron is gluttonous, maybe we'll say he needs a large rouncy, but that's the same, move of 16. Size a little bit bigger. Dex 36. Yeah, I don't think any of this will matter. But I guess ooh, riding to death. That makes me sad. So I'll keep this open over here. And I think what this is, what we're trying to be taught here is just like this is mainly, I think, about opposed and unopposed rolls. So there we go. So just use some dice here. And okay. Every successful horsemanship roll allows a rider to move ahead 1 extra space. Okay. So we'll just say that each of these squares is like the same move amount of 16. And what I would do here is I'm going to roll my horsemanship of 10. Okay, so I think this is pretty straight up and down here. We roll the horsemanship of 10, and any time that I get a successful roll, this is actually an interesting way to teach this, because it's like, what if the horse was a sword? A critical success allows a movement of 2 extra spaces. Moves as many squares as long as column. I see. So actually this won't quite work, because there needs to be a lot more than just this, because it says as many squares as the horse's movement. And so if I said that like each square was 16 and then I got 1 extra, I would just like, it would be a tiny bit up. So we'll just estimate it. We'll say that we go from the back of the square to the back of the square. However, if you get 1 extra, you go to the middle, and 2 extra, you go to the front edge. We'll see if that works. Who knows? I don't think it's that important in terms of the story or anything. But then a fumble means the rider falls off and takes 1d6 damage. None of them are wearing armor and must take an action to remount, in addition to traveling no distance. The winner is the one who covers his whole column first. A tie is possible. Once the race is concluded, everyone can rest. It's noontime. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have to do this as many times here, but let's give it a shot. Let's use this. All right. Why don't we get a matching, so I could roll these both at the same time. All right. So we both have 10. We both failed. 11 and 12. So we both go same. And then we both succeeded, but not a crit, because the crit is exactly matching. You'd think it'd be 1 on the other end, but it's not. It would have to be 10. So this means we both go 1 extra space ahead. Okay, so now fumble Ruski on behalf of Aaron. So he falls, and I go ahead. I also fail, but I don't fumble. So I only go ahead 1 square, and Aaron falls off. Let's this could be interesting. Okay. So I fail. Aaron successfully mounts. So I think that would be like that. That would be the roll this time. I don't think he would, because it says it takes 1 action to get back on. Okay, 19 and an 8. So I succeed, he fails. So that means I go 1 ahead. Okay, yeah, so it looks like I'm going to okay, so all right, so that is a crit success, which would mean I go 2 ahead, which means I would win. But is there an opportunity here, since we're already at 1:10, is there an opportunity here for me to check a trait? Because what I'm thinking, and again, I'm just kind of don't know if this is exactly right, but what I'm thinking is I'm not just winning here, I'm blowing him out of the water. So I think this might be, it could be just versus arbitrary, right? I really believe in justice, and it is just that if I rode better, I should win. But I certainly don't want to humiliate Aaron. And so I could roll merciful plus or versus cruel. Yeah, I think I'm going to roll merciful plus cruel. So let's see how that would go. So I need to roll under a 13. Oh, I'm not done. How long did I have that up? Okay, well, good news. I rolled a 13. So this is really good. Okay, so I got a crit success on this here. So I believe, first of all, that would mean that I am going to check merciful. All right. And I think this would be a good way to close things out here, is if we can figure something out. All right. So let me find the page. This is exciting to me. This is how deep into this I am. All right. So first of all, I think that this was a great choice, doing merciful and cruel. Merciful cruel, right down here where my finger is. This trait pair measures a character's innate sense or lack of regard for their fellows. Merciful indicates a tendency to extend sympathy, pity, and mutual aid to others. This includes sparing an unarmed enemy, arranging for the feeding of the poor, helping the weak, and any other act that is not expected of one's rank and station. A famously merciful person is called compassionate. Being merciful is a virtue for Christian and chivalrous knights, which I said, though, that's pretty much what I'm going for here. Cruel indicates a disregard for the feelings and needs of others or lack of sympathy. A famously high value in cruel suggests the character actually enjoys the discomfort and troubles of others. Okay, so that means, I slow down my round C and I go, whoa, whoa, and I extend my hand and I say, "Can I offer you a hand up, brother?" And he says, I believe that would be most adequate. And I help him up and get back on the horse. And then I say, "Shall we resume where we left off and complete the race?" And, it's not like we're doing a public race or anything, but there are people around and they probably see that and react to that. Nice sportsmanship, it might be called. Elad is like, "What are you doing? You don't. When they're down, you keep them down." And we're just like, yeah, whatever. Okay, so that would be, that's good. Got a little bit of characterization there, but what I want to figure out before we go is if you get, okay, if the initial test roll is a failure, the player must roll against the opposing. So we did that. Trait rolls, decision rolls, deciding a character's behavior. Normal traits decide the most freedom of action. The player chooses which side of the trait pair to test first. Yeah, okay. They should always follow their famous trait. All right, got it. Trait roll results. The GM may apply modifiers to reflect the demands or pressures of the situation. We didn't have that. If the character has normal traits, they may roll them in any order they wish. On the contrary, characters must always roll famous or exalted traits. My trait is not famous because it's a 13. And if I remember correctly, famous doesn't start till 20, I think. 16 to 20. If I look at passions here, yeah, it says a famous passion is between 16 and 20. Exalted is 20 plus. So that's likely the same for traits here. And then it says crit, which I got. The character is moved by and acts strongly in accordance with the trait and takes an experience check. The game master may grant a relevant +5 modifier to a subsequent skill or passion roll. A trait roll that results in a critical or fumble may provide +5 bonus to subsequent skill. So we have then put a check there, And I believe as far as experience goes, at the end of the session, hey, what the hell, why not? We could do it. At the end of the session, we'll pick up after the race. Because I have a feeling someone's about to bring some news. So 227 characters. Oh, okay. You know what? I think it would be in the winter phase. Characters spend some of the winter reflecting on the year. Potential improvements have been recorded throughout the year by game year by checking skills, passions, and traits on the character sheet. The procedure to increase any of these stats is the same, but note that the characteristics have limitations to being increased this way. And then we have to look at training and practice on 232. Roll 1d20 once for each experience check. If the number rolled is greater than the current value, then the character learn from their experience and adds 1 point to that value. A value at 20 requires, with or without a critical bonus, requires a roll of 20 to be raised through this method. The process is repeated for every check recorded. Each check only gets 1 roll per year, but all check statistics are attempted. The number of successes achieved during play is not relevant. Only 1 roll is allowed. The player determines which order. The better you become at a skill, or the extreme your trait or passion, the less likely it is to increase from experience checks. So this would be a rare roll over. So yeah, I think we'll pick up there. That I needed. Sometimes you need to get that little bit out of the way. I just needed to see my character. I needed to see them interacting. I needed to see them make a choice. And even then, I know if you're not, if you haven't solo played as much, that might seem irrelevant, but it's almost like I needed to, it was almost like the thing that got smashed through with the lance, the quintain. I needed to bash through it. I needed to go through it. And so we have a little bit of characterization. We have 2 new characters in Elad and Aaron. We have some camaraderie. We have a game. So episode 9 we'll pick up. For those interested, you can join by just clicking the join button. Some people can't do that on their mobile phones. Don't know why YouTube does that, but hopefully that gets fixed soon. But you could definitely do it on desktop. Okay, that'll do it for this episode. Please tell me if you're not on this list, and you should be. I really do believe in you. Not that. Oh.